Clark Newhall reading Jerry's soliloquy from Edward Albee's The Zoo Story. All right. The story of Jerry and the dog. What I'm going to tell you has something to do with how sometimes it's necessary to go a long distance out of the way in order to come a short distance back correctly. Or maybe I only think that it has something to do with that, but it's why I went to the zoo today and why I walked northerly rather, until I came here. All right. The dog, I think I told you, is a black monster of a beast, an oversized head, tiny, tiny ears and eyes, bloodshot, infected maybe, and a body you can see the ribs through the skin. Dog is black, all black, except for the bloodshot eyes and yes, and an open sore on its right forepaw, and that's red too, and oh yeah, the poor monster, and I do believe it's an old dog. It certainly is mistreated. Almost always has an erection. That's red too. And what else? Oh yeah, there's a gray, yellow, white color too, and it bares its fangs like this, which is what he did when he saw me for the first time, the day I moved in. I worried about that animal the very first minute I saw him. Now, animals don't take to me like St. Francis has birds hanging off him all the time. What I mean is, animals are indifferent to me, like people, most of the time. But this dog wasn't indifferent. From the very beginning, he'd snarl and then go for me, get one of my legs. Not like he was rabid, you know. He was a sort of a stumbly dog, but he wasn't half-assed either. It was a good stumbly run, but I always got away. He got a piece of my trouser leg. Look, you can see right here where it's mended. He got that. Second day I lived there, but I kicked free and got upstairs fast, so that was that. I still don't know how, to this day, the other roomers manage it. But you know what I think? I think it had to do only with me. Cozy. So, anyway, this went on for over a week. Whenever I came in, but never when I went out. That's funny, or it was funny. I could pack up and live in the street for all the dog cared. Well, I thought about it up in my room one day, one of the times after I'd bolted upstairs. And I made up my mind. I decided, first, I'll kill the dog with kindness. And if that doesn't work, I'll just kill him. Don't react, Peter. Just listen. So the next day, I went out and I bought a big bag of hamburgers, medium rare, no ketchup, no onion. And on the way home, I threw away all the rolls and just kept the meat. I got back to the rooming house. The dog was waiting for me. I half opened the door that led into the entrance hall, and there he was, waiting for me. Figures. I went in very cautiously, and I had the hamburgers, remember. I opened the bag, and I set the meat down about 12 feet from where the dog was snarling at me, like so. And he snarled. He stopped snarling. Sniffed. Moved slowly, then faster towards the meat. Well, when he got to it, he stopped. And he looked at me. I smiled. Tentatively. You understand? He turned his face back to the hamburgers, smelled, sniffed some more, and then, like that, he tore into him. It was as if he'd never eaten anything in his life before, except like garbage, which might very well have been the case. I don't think the landlady ever eats anything but garbage. But he ate all the hamburgers, almost all at once, making sounds in his throat like a woman. Then when he'd finished his meat, the hamburger, tried to eat the paper too, he sat down and smiled. I think he smiled. I know cats do. It was a very gratifying few moments. Then bam, he snarled and made for me again. He didn't get me this time either. So I got upstairs and I lay down on my bed and started to think about the dog again. To be truthful, I was offended. And I was damn mad. It was 6 perfectly good hamburgers with not enough pork in them to make them disgusting. I was offended. But after a while, I decided to try it a few more days. If you think about it, this dog had what amounted to an antipathy towards me, really. And I wondered if I could overcome this antipathy. And so I tried it for 5 more days. But it was always the same. Snarl, sniff, move, faster, stare, gobble, smile, snarl, bam! Well, now by this time, Columbus Avenue was strewn with hamburger rolls, and I was less offended than disgusted. So I decided to kill the dog. Oh, don't be so alarmed, Peter. I didn't succeed. The day I tried to kill the dog, I bought only 1 hamburger and what I thought was a murderous portion of rat poison. When I bought the hamburger, I asked the man not to bother with the roll. All I wanted was the meat. I expected some reaction from him. I mean, like, we don't sell no hamburgers without rolls, or what do you want to do, eat it out of your hands? No, he smiled benignly, wrapped up the hamburger in wax paper, and said, "A bite for your pussycat." I wanted to say, no, not really. It's part of a plan to poison a dog I know. But you can't say a dog I know without sounding funny, so I said, a little too loud, I'm afraid, and too formally, "Yes, a bite for my pussycat." People looked up. Always happens when I try to simplify things. People look up. That's neither hither nor thither. So on my way back to the rooming house, I kneaded the hamburger and the rat poison together between my hands. At that point, feeling as much sadness as disgust. I opened the door of the entrance hall, and there the monster was, waiting to take the offering and then jump me. Poor bastard. He never learned that the moment he took to smile before he went for me gave me time enough to get out of range. But there he was, malevolence with an erection, waiting. So I put the poison patty down, moved toward the stairs, and watched. Poor animal gobbled the food down as usual, smiled, which almost made me sick, and then bam, bam. But I sprinted up the stairs as usual, and the dog didn't get me as usual. And it came to pass that the beast was deathly ill. I knew this because he no longer attended me, and because the landlady sobered up. She stopped me in the hall the same evening of the attempted murder and confided the information that God had struck her puppy dog a surely fatal blow. She'd forgotten her bewildered lust, and her eyes were wide open for the first time. They looked like the dog's eyes. She sniveled, implored me to pray for the animal. I wanted to say to her, "Madam, I have myself to pray for. The colored queen, the Puerto Rican family, the person in the front room whom I've never seen, the woman who cries deliberately behind her closed doors, and the rest of the people in all the rooming houses everywhere. Besides, madam, I don't understand how to pray." But to simplify things, I told her I'd pray. She looked up. She said that I was a liar and that I probably wanted the dog to die. And I told her, and there was so much truth here, that I didn't want the dog to die. I didn't. Not just because I poisoned him. I'm afraid I must tell you, I wanted the dog to live so that I could see what our new relationship might come to. Please understand, Peter. That sort of thing is important. You must believe me, it is important. We have to know the effect of our actions. So, anyway, the dog recovered. I have no idea why, unless he was a descendant of that puppy that guarded the gates of hell or some such resort. I'm not up on my mythology. Are you? At any rate. And you've missed the $8,000 question, Peter, at any rate. The dog recovered his health, and the landlady recovered her thirst, in no way altered by the Bow Wow's deliverance. And when I came home from a movie that was playing on 42nd Street, or a movie I'd seen, or one that was very much like one, or several that I'd seen, after the landlady told me Puppykins was better, I was so hoping for the dog to be waiting for me. I was, well, how would you put it? Enticed? Fascinated? No, I don't think so. Heart-shatteringly anxious, that's it. I was heart-shatteringly anxious to confront my friend again. Yes, Peter, friend. It's the only word for it. I was heart-shatteringly, etc., to confront my doggy friend again. I came in the door and advanced unafraid to the center of the hall. The beast was there, looking at me, and he looked better for his scrape with the nevermind. I stopped. I looked at him. He looked at me. I think we stayed a long time that way. Still. Stone statue. Just looking at one another. I looked more into his face than he looked into mine. I mean, I can concentrate longer at looking into a dog's face than a dog can concentrate at looking into mine or into anybody else's face for that matter. But during that 20 seconds or 2 hours that we looked into each other's faces, we made contact. Now here's what I wanted to happen. I loved the dog now, and I wanted him to love me. I had tried to love, I had tried to kill, and both had been unsuccessful by themselves. I hoped, and I don't really know why I expected the dog to understand anything, much less my motivations, but I hoped that the dog would understand. It's just that if you can't deal with people, you have to make a start somewhere. With animals. Don't you see? A person has to have some way of dealing with something. If not with people, something. With a bed, with a cockroach, with a mirror. No, that's too hard. That's one of the last steps. With a cockroach, with a carpet, a roll of toilet paper. No, not that either. Always check for blood. You see how hard it is to find things with the street corner, and with too many lights, all colors reflecting on the only wet streets, with a wisp of smoke, with pornographic playing cards, with a strong box without a lock, with love, with vomiting, with crying, with fury, because the pretty little ladies aren't pretty little ladies, with making money with your body, which is an act of love, and I can prove it. With howling because you're alive with God. How about that? With God, who's a colored queen who wears a kimono and plucks his eyebrows, who's a woman who cries with determination behind her closed door. Well, with God, who, I'm told, turned his back on the whole thing some time ago, with someday, with people, with an idea, concept. We're better. Wherever better in this humiliating excuse for a jail. Where better to communicate one simple-minded idea than in the entrance hall? Where? It will be a start. Where better to make a beginning? To understand just maybe to be understood. Beginning of an understanding. Then with a dog, just that, a dog. A dog. It seemed like a perfectly sensible idea. Man is dog's best friend, remember? So the dog and I looked at each other. I longer than the dog. What I saw then has never been the same ever since. Whenever the dog and I see each other, we both stop where we are. We regard each other with a mixture of sadness and suspicion, and then we feign indifference. We walk past each other safely. We have an understanding. It's very sad. But you'll have to admit that it is an understanding. We had made attempts at contact, and we failed. The dog has returned to garbage, and I to solitary free passage. I have not returned. I meant to say I have gained solitary free passage, if that much further loss can be said to be gain. I've learned that neither kindness nor cruelty by themselves, independent of each other, creates any effect beyond themselves. And I've learned that the two combined together at the same time are the teaching emotion, and what is gained is loss. And what's been the result? The dog and I have attained a compromise, more of a bargain, really. We neither love nor hurt because we don't try to reach each other. And was trying to feed the dog an act of love? And perhaps was the dog's attempt to bite me not an act of love? If we can so misunderstand then, well, then why have we invented the word love in the first place? The story of Jerry and the dog. The end. Well, Peter, you think I could sell that story to Reader's Digest and make a couple $100 for the most unforgettable character I've ever met, huh? Clark Newhall, Albee, Zoo Story, Jerry Soliloquy.